Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 John Deere Classic Initial Research Show. An exciting finish to the Rocket Mortgage. I hope you came out on the winning end of that. Played all of the Audric Potgater, played a lot of the Max Grazerman, Chris Kirk, all of that. It was a decent week for me, for yours truly. But close, but couldn't cross the finish line. So I had a couple of win wagers that were in contention at the beginning of the day, and then just kind of fell off into the bottom half of the top 10. But considering the poor performance from the U.S. Open, the poor performance from the Travelers, this was a very promising week. I feel really, really good about the suggestions that I had. I knew I was taking a big chance by not playing Colin Morikawa, but like I said, a lot of the suggestions I had ended up playing really, really well. So I think we're building some momentum as we approach the final major of the season. But first, we're going to take a stop in Silvis, Illinois for the John Deere Classic. So hopefully your weekend went very, very well. As always, feel free to put any winnings and notable things in chat. We'd love to be able to shout out members of the community who had success. So we'll turn our attention now to the John Deere Classic. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I place research every Monday regarding some course information, previous winners, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. I'll try to have something out for the John Deere Classic tomorrow. Haven't had a lot of opportunity to do some of that research yet. So hopefully I'll have something out for you tomorrow. But if you want to see the weekly research that I normally do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. Comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. If you follow me over at X, you would have seen all of the Harry Hall that I played, the Ben Griffin, which played very, very well, just didn't win. You would have seen the betting cards full of Matt Fitzpatrick and Harry Hall. Took some shots with Victor Perry, things of that nature. So you want to see the players that I'm wagering and players that I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Can't recommend it enough. You really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to it. And make sure you're following him over on social media, because that is where we place our weekly detailed write-ups for the 2025 Picks Challenge. So make sure you're following him over on social media as well. Lastly, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all in addition to anything from the Rocket Mortgage, any closing thoughts that you have, course, winner, anything to that effect. And then moving forward this week for the John Deere Classic, have you looked at the field? What do you know of the course? So feel free to put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. Would love to hear from you all. And of course, if you aren't able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 John Deere Classic. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. As I mentioned, we are in Silvis, Illinois for the John Deere Classic. This tournament has been a fairly long-standing I can't say signature event, but it's been a long-standing tournament on the PGA Tour. John Deere took over the title sponsorship around 2000, I believe, maybe a little bit later. This is, widely known as the Quad Cities Open for a long time in the 90s and 80s. TPC Deere Run is a D.A. Wabering design. He has his hands on a couple of courses on the PGA Tour, but nothing to do in terms of Fantasy National with Architect Filter or anything like that. Yeah, so we are in Silvis, Illinois, right on the border between Illinois and Iowa. Um, TPC Deere Run is a traditional, or what I would call a normal par 71. You have 4 par 3s and 3 par 5s. Here at TPC Deere Run, yardage is right at 7,300 yards. I'm going to probably just round to that nice whole number there. Not long by any means, not short, but traditional par 71 at 7,300 yards. We are on what they classify as L93 bent, and I apologize. Let me grab my notes from off the side here. L93 bent is the specific subtype of bent, and it's the only course on the PGA Tour that lists specifically L93 bent. But we do have a few courses on the PGA Tour that have bent grass, just not this specific strand or whatever they call it. Colonial, Charles Schwab has bent. Of course, the Masters at Augusta National, Muirfield, TPC Craig Ranch, TPC Twin Cities, where we'll be in a couple weeks for the 3M, TPC Summerlin in the fall for the Shriners also has a different subset of bent. So we'll be looking at all things bent this week in terms of putting. The fairways are also bent grass, just a different strand, as you can see, South Shore versus L93. In the rough, the main defense of the course, as you can see from the past couple of weeks, from Oakmont to the Travelers, the Rocket Mortgage, the main defense for a lot of these Midwestern tournaments and courses. Yeah, I mean, the Cromwell Travelers isn't Midwestern, but specifically Detroit, and now this week, weather and rough is basically the defense of the course. And this is 4-inch long bluegrass and fescue, same style of rough that we had for the Rocket Mortgage, the Travelers. So same kind of rough, can get long, can get difficult to play out of. But the thing is, these fairways are pretty darn wide and generous. I know it only says 28 acres of fairway. That's quite a bit misleading. At 300 yards, the fairways are about 36 yards wide. That is very forgiving. These fairways are easy to hit. There's only 3 holes with water in play. The greens, depending on what figure you look at, this might be average for PGA Tour. I'm going to say it's a little bit smaller. I've always went with the 6,000 square foot metric as the average, as opposed to 5,500 square feet. But either way, we're looking at slightly smaller or right at average size greens here at TPC Deere Run. So there's a look at the course from a GCSA tournament fact sheet standpoint. If we take a look, not in the longest 10, not in the shortest 10, green size, nothing that really distinguishes it from a lot of the other courses in terms of overall statistics. Smallest greens, largest greens, fewest or most bunkers, none of that. It's just the rough and the weather are the main defenses here at TPC Deere Run. So with that, we'll move to Fantasy National and take a look at the players in the field this week. Before we do that, I'm going to show you 3 players that originally committed to playing this week and have since dropped out. Those players are Danny Walker, Norman Xiong, and then just maybe about 2 hours ago when I looked, Aaron Baddeley had also withdrawn. So these 3 names have withdrawn and are not playing this week. Taking their spots in the field, if I scroll all the way down, Zach Blair, Matthew Neesmith, and James Hahn. So these 3 players here have taken their spots. All right. The thing with the John Deere traditionally used to be the tournament before the Open Championship. And it would attract, I wouldn't say a strong field, but at least a respectable field for all the players who weren't already qualified for the Open Championship. And it was the final event to play your way into the Open Championship. With the PGA Tour and DP World Tour doing their alliance or strategic alliance some 4 years ago now, the Scottish Open was added as a PGA Tour event, and the John Deere Classic kind of lost its spot. It is still played, before the Open Championship, but it is not a part of the Open Championship qualifying series. So what you're going to see is that the strength of the field is lacking. It's lacking by quite a bit. There's only 2 players in the top 25 in the field this week in terms of OWGR. That's Ben Griffin, and I believe I thought Cameron Young was in here. I might be mistaken with that. Yeah, no, Carson Young. So it's Ben Griffin and one other. Maybe it's Siwoo Kim or maybe it's Jason Day. Either way, there's only 2 players inside the OWGR top 25, and there's only 3 or 4 more inside the top 50. I mean, this tournament really does lack for star quality. Even so, much more so than the Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage, we had a couple of players like Keegan Cantlay, Colin Morikawa. They're not here this week. Like I said, Ben Griffin, you see the number 1 strokes gained total, probably the highest rated OWGR player. There's a few other names here, like I said, Jason Day and Siwoo Kim, but really this is a pretty lackluster field in terms of star quality and strength of field. If we take a look at TBC Deere Run in terms of a scorecard and graphical view, one thing is going to stand out pretty quickly, and that this course, much like the Rocket Mortgage, is very, very easy. You see, you do have a couple of holes here, the par 4 9th at 503, very, very difficult hole, and the par 4 18th at 476, plays to almost 2/10 of a shot over par. Those 2 holes are very difficult here, make no mistake about it. But really, the rest of the course is pretty darn gettable, with a few exceptions. You got the par 4 15th at a 10th of a shot over par, but I mean, a gentleman's handshake to start your round. Short par 4 playing a 10th of a shot under par. A very gettable par 5, 4% eagle rate. I mean, just a hole that professionals are really taking advantage of. Quarter of a shot under par, 3/10, more than a third. I mean, even a lot of these shorter par 4s are being played, under par. So really, you get to the 6th most difficult hole here, which is only 2/100ths of a shot over par. There are a lot of scoring chances around TBC Deere Run, and that shows itself in some of the winning scores. Let me pull this up. So like last year, Davis Thompson, 28 under par. 2 years ago when Sepp Straka won, 21 under. You can see it's just very, very easy. 3 years ago when JT Poston won, 21 under. Lots of low scores here. 19 under. You had a couple of rounds that were average because the wind did pick up a little bit, but really you're getting winning scores into the 20s. So an event not too dissimilar from the Rocket Mortgage that we just saw this past week in Detroit. Whatever length there is in the course, the par 5s are respectable, 561, 596, and 569. There's also a couple of longer par 3s, 215, 226. But really, majority of these holes are pretty darn short par fours, with the exception of the three toughest holes. The three toughest holes being all of the par fours measuring over 475, 476, 484, and 503. The rest of these pretty darn short and pretty darn easy. Par 4, 361. You see it gives up an eagle about 1% of the time. They do shorten this to make it a drivable par 4 sometimes. 424, pretty darn short. 432, actually one of the more difficult holes on the course, but only 432. 428, 367, 433, 416, just a lot of shorter par 4s. Whereas at Detroit, we had a few par 4s that measured over 450 or 460 yards. Really, TBC Deere Run really emphasizes these shorter par 4s quite a bit. If we take a look at strokes gained by shot type, with an easy course, easy fairways to hit, easy greens to hit, very quickly can turn into a putting contest. So your top 10s, the approach is trying to hang in with the putting. It's still putting is still winning out there, but the off the tee is outweighing the around the green by a decent little bit here for the top 10s. For your top 5s, actually, around the green still about the same. And then for your winners, I'm imagining this around the green number is for the players who are attacking these par 5s and 2, or these very, very short par 4s off the tee. But you can see for the winners, it quickly becomes a putting contest with how easy this course is. We look at strokes gained by hole by par, not unlike what you would expect. More par 5s there are, more of the professionals are going to take advantage of them. Par 5s here, getting by far the most for your top 5s. It just gets exaggerated. For your winners, it's a lot of the par 5s. So much like what we did for Detroit, we're probably going to do a whole lot of the same this week for the John Deere Classic. Now these par 3s, even though they're not seemingly adding much here, there was an interesting note in Gabe's article how this is, I think, one of the top 5 easiest grouping of par 3s at TBC Deere Run. So maybe that's why these par 3s aren't adding a whole lot in terms of strokes gained, because they're just not that difficult. You see the 16th playing a full 10th of a shot under par, 200ths over, 100th under, 800ths over. So basically right at par is what these par 3s play at. So not overly difficult. We look at hole composition. The par 3s do have a good mix. You have one short, one mid-length, one long, and one very long par 3. So the par 3s are a good mix here at TBC Deere Run. But as I was mentioning, the par 4s, there's an emphasis on these short par 4s. 7 of the 11 par 4s are under 450 yards. One of these being what I will say semi-drivable, the par 4 14th, yields an eagle at about 1%. It's when they shorten it and choose to make it drivable. They don't always do that. But just a big collection of short par 4s here, TBC Deere Run. 2 under 400, 5 from 400 to 450. You do have a few, a couple of longer ones. 3 from 450 to 500. 1 extremely long par 4, the hardest hole in the course, the 9th. Par 4 9th at 503, playing to 2/10ths of a shot over par. And then all 3 par 5s fall between 550 and 600. Approach shot distribution, not too dissimilar from what we saw at the Rocket Mortgage last week. What the difference is a little bit more of some longer clubs in here. There are some forced layups, by design here at TBC Deere Run. Whereas a lot of the players were just taking driver at the Rocket Mortgage. That option isn't even on the table. here at TBC Deere Run because of some of the terrain and how the course maneuvers through some of the rolling hills that are there in Silvis. So you get a few more of these 125 to 150 approach shots as opposed to the 75 to 125 that we saw last week at the Rocket Mortgage. You still get a fair share of 200 plus just because of all three of the par fives being attacked into. You do have, that one long par four here, but we're still mostly looking at wedges. And this is another reason why Zach Johnson was always a big contender here, won twice, because he's very good with his wedges. So at least early on in our week, we'll want to look at, say 100 to 150 probably in terms of approach shots and proximities. Historic cut line, just emphasizing just how easy this has been. Last year, the cut was at -4. That's extremely easy. Generally was around this -2 to -3 range. Might have had a -1 every once in a while when or if the wind picked up. But generally, we're looking at an easy tournament. 2, 3, even 4 under being the cut. Scoring distribution, again, emphasizing just the ease. 22% birdies, 13% bogeys. A whole lot more birdies than bogeys here. You're going to get more scores under par. Driving accuracy, very much easier here than the Tour Average event. Greens are easier to hit here. Players are more successful scrambling here. Less 3 putts per round. I mean, everything is pointing to it being easy. Even the distance is a little bit higher than the average Tour event. Now, there are some forced layups, so it's not like the Rocket Mortgage where the distance was still much higher than the average Tour event. But easy fairways, easy greens, easy to chip and to scramble. If you are out of position, makes for an easy tournament. So we're going to be looking at a lot of the same things that we did for Detroit. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at one of our big overarching filters that we're going to be using this week, this easy to par filter. So when rounds have been easy relative to par the past year and a half or so, top performers in the field this week: Luke Clanton, Ben Griffin, Alex Smalley, Lucas Glover, Stephen Yeager, Kevin Roy, Siwoo Kim, Michael Kim, Brian Campbell, Doug Gim, and Max McGreevy. There's your top 10 or 11 in terms of performance, total performance when rounds have been easy. Again, nothing to do with Architect Filter. This is a DA wavering design. Don't have any DA wavering in here. We'll take a look at forecast starting tomorrow. This is right in the middle here, right at 7,300 yards. So I don't like looking at, average length courses. So instead, we'll just take a quick look at some strokes gained. It's really all we can do with these nondescript courses like Detroit and with TBC Deere Run. So, didn't mean to uncheck that. When rounds have been easy in the past year and a half, your top off the tee players in the field this week: Kevin Yu, Rico Hoey, Alejandro Tosti, Sam Stevens, Cam Champ, Luke Clanton, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Fishburne, Alex Smalley, and Kurt Kitayama. Top 10 in terms of off the tee when rounds are easy. If we take a look at just approach, your top approach players in the past 24 rounds, so long as it's been this calendar year, and I don't believe that, I did not think the Rocket Mortgage was in here considering it ended about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half now, but your top approach players in the field this week at the John Deere Classic: Emiliano Grillo, John Pack, Henrik Norlander, Joel Damon, Sammy Valimaki, Siwoo Kim, Bud Cauley, Ben Griffin, Victor Peri, and Keith Mitchell. And of course, we're going to look at putting. So I am going to extend this time frame just to make sure we have enough rounds to look at. But we're going to look at bent And you see some of these players only have 2-4 rounds. Some have as many as 47. So, and to be quite honest with you, it's probably safe to look at fast. But if there is rain in the forecast, there is a decent, at least, chance, if there's rain in the forecast, that they could play to average. Most of the time, it's labeled as fast. But your top putters on bent greens, I'm not going to do any speed filter tonight until we get a look at the forecast, starting tomorrow. But your top putters on bent greens, going back to last year: Vince Whaley, Justin Lauer, Cameron Champ, Kevin Kisner, Cristobal Del Solar, Brant Snedeker, Davis Riley, Ben Silverman, Pearson Coody, and Takumi Kanaya. Those are your top 10 putters on bent greens going back to 2024. Okay. Yeah, just like what I thought would happen at Detroit. Let's just kind of look at some whoops, I meant to go to scoring, not fairways and greens. So let's just kind of take a look at some opportunities and some birdies. Players are going to have to go low here to contend. Your top opportunities gained players when rounds are easy: Joel Damon, Luke Clanton, Lucas Glover, Kurt Kitayama, Ricky Castillo, Doug Gim, Keith Mitchell, Carson Young, Max McGreevy, Eric Cole, and Chris Kirk. And then birdies are better: Sung Jae, Luke Clanton, Hayden Springer, Siwoo, Joe Highsmith, Eric Cole, Chan Kim, Jesper Svensson, Stefan Yeager, and Davis Thompson. Davis Thompson being our defending champion, as we'll see here in a moment. Yeah, in fact, that's just a decent enough segue. I think that's really all we want to look at this evening in terms of statistical stuff. We'll really dig into it, starting tomorrow in the data dive. But if we take a look at prior tournament history here at the John Deere Classic, our top strokes gained total leader the past 5 years is Lucas Glover. Wins in 2021. I'll say 5 years. It's actually going back 6. 2020's edition was canceled because of 2020 reasons. So this is, just understand, this is going back to 2019. But still, Lucas Glover has played very well here. 3 for 4 with a win. Adam Schenk has been very hit or miss. 2 top 5s and a missed cut and a withdrawal. Denny McCarthy, 3 straight top 10s. Seamus Power, 3 straight top 20s. JT Poston is a former champion here. There's Davis Thompson, your defending champion. Sepp Straka, who's not in the field, won in 2023. Mark Hubbard's 4 for 4 here. Michael Thorbjornsen, who had a fantastic Rocket Mortgage, has also been very, very good here in Silvis at TBC Deere Run. Svensson's been consistent. Alex Smalley has a runner-up. Kevin Yu, top 10 and a top 20. Zach Johnson is a lot more historic, but Zach Johnson was well known for his performance at the John Deere. Winner in 2012. Several runner-ups. Another couple of thirds. He's just been very, very good here, especially younger. Now that he's gotten older, he's kind of, even at his age, to make the cut and still, make top 30s and such, he really likes this course. Sung Jae, 2 for 2. Ben Griffin, top 5 to his only appearance. Luke Clanton, runner-up last year in his only appearance. So there's some of the players who have played well around TBC Deere Run. Players who haven't played well and have played here, multiple times in the past 4 to 6 years. Scott Piercy, Joseph Bramlett, 0 for 4. Austin Cook, Michael Kim again, 0 for 3. Brant Snedeker, 0 for 3. Will Gordon 1 for 3. Let's see, any other names stand out here? Matt Kuchar 1 for 2. Joel Damon 1 for 2. Skins 0 for 2. Carl Yuan, Ben Martin, Adam Hadwin 0 for 2. As much as he's a good putter, this doesn't seem like he is able to separate himself here, considering he's a really good putter. But this being a putting contest, he's just generally not fared well here, and he's not in good form. Max McGreevy, Toasty, Molinax, Malnati. So there's a look at some of the players who have not performed well at TPC Deere Run. All right. Really all I have for you all in terms of an initial research. Like I said, be on the lookout. Tomorrow I'm going to try and post some research regarding some past winners, how they performed at the John Deere Classic and things of that nature. But yeah, that's really all I have for you all this evening. Let me come back to Fantasy National. I hope your weekend went very well. Better than mine, although mine wasn't a disaster by any means. He was decent enough, but couldn't get Matt Fitzpatrick across the finish line, Harry Hall across the finish line. I played a lot of Ben Griffin and Cam Young, who was kind of middling and things of that nature. So hopefully your week and weekend went well with the Rocket Mortgage. And moving forward to the John Deere Classic, we're going to try to keep the momentum that I have at least slowly built for 1 week. So thanks for tuning in, watching, and listening, and supporting the channel. Very much appreciated. I love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. And be on the lookout for social media, or on social media tomorrow, for some of that research. So thanks again for all the support, for all of the wagers you made this past week for the Rocket Mortgage, for all of the DFS contests you played this past week for the Rocket Mortgage. And until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive Show, may all your bets be profitable.